Hello everyone and welcome back to Dearsley. In this update I'm going to hide one of the point motors that I have surface mounted on my railway. I'm going to hide this with a water tower. These are the plans for the Scale Scenes water tower number R025. As you can see, the water tower comes in two parts. The water tank itself, atop a brick structure with door and windows. This water tower is designed actually to take the tank part of the DAPL kit. So you needn't make this if you're going to use the DAPL kit, and that's the option I'm going to take. So I'm just going to build the brick base unit for this. These I print where there's going to be visible detailing on photo paper. I buy some matte photo paper, quite thin. I think this was 130 GSM. Another thing it's worth pointing out is that on each of these A4 sheets at the bottom somewhere you'll find the card that you need to stick this on. So this says heavy card, so these need to go on heavy card. That says print only, so you don't need to put it on a card at all. And some of them will say medium card, that says medium card. One last sheet of printing are the windows. And these I've done on transparency overhead projection film. Actually, this is the first time I've done this. And as you can see, the white is just the backing. These are on a transparent film. Now the only sort of thought I did have with these is that obviously when you print them you can't print white, and an awful lot of window frames are white. Anyway, on this particular model these are the only 4 windows I need, and as it's a water tank I'm just going to keep it in the black and see how it looks. The others are, as it says here, bonus scratch building windows. So there we are. Finally, this is part of my stock of card. I just use the 3 thicknesses that they advise, which is a fairly thin, very thin, flexible piece of card, and then I specifically buy 2mm and 1mm card. Normally the first thing to do in these kits is to prepare the base layers. What I try and do to minimise the cost of my card and the cost of my spray is to put as many of these base layers as I can on one 2mm piece of board. Now with my work area well protected with newspaper, and I can spray them. I keep them all together. Again, that saves adhesive. Keep them nice and tight together and just give them a... They can then be fixed to the board. I'll flatten that in a minute. I'm just showing you like this on the video so that you can see. Okay, they don't have to be particularly accurately placed as long as you leave room to position everything. Now, give it a good firm press. The nice thing with the spray, using the spray adhesive, is that you can work fairly quickly with this, and if we just give it a moment or two then we'll be able to cut it out. So with a new blade fitted in my knife, I'm ready to cut out the wall supports. I run put the edge of my ruler right on the line so I can see a fraction of the black ink showing on the edge, and then as always start with a couple of light scores until you get the furrow sort of ploughed, as it were. It helps prevent slipping, you know, which can be dangerous or can muck the project up. So a series of cuts goes through it. A new blade keeps it nice and neat, but you can feel that sort of rough edge. So you can do it at the end or you can do it as you go. I just rub that back smooth. and that feels fine. Okay, so I just go across, I keep it, be accurate with your lining up, and don't put too much pressure on the knife, just score it through. Well, here we are with the worst job done really. The 2mm board is the hardest to cut, and it's very hard wearing on blades. So with just this amount cut out, it's worn out the tip of my blade, and I've just had to turn it round before I continue. Care needs to be taken with the window cutouts, and in these 2mm walls we've just cut, there are 8 to do, which is a bit tedious. One thing that helps to keep the accuracy is just to extend the lines, because if you put your ruler on to cut that line there, you can't see it hides the other line. Now I know you could turn it round like this one and cut it like that so you can see it, but you can't do all of them. You can do some of them, but you'll inevitably have to cover some of the opening in order to cut them accurately. So it doesn't take too long actually. I just line up where the pencil is. You can do it with a ruler or a set square. It's probably quicker with a set square, but I can keep it still for the camera with a ruler. And just mark them as accurately as you can. Now then, when I cover that with the ruler, I have cutting marks that I can go to. So with the ruler now lined up on the pencil marks, I do a series of cuts from the corner, because this needs to be a heavy knife as well, this is still 2mm card, and put the tip right in the corner and just bring it through to halfway or just over halfway, and make a series of cuts until the blade goes through. You do all of them the same way, and then to make the other cut you can simply line it up again, you see, and then come in on the other side, make the cuts so that they go through. When you've done them all around, you've got a line that goes right through from one to the other. When they are all cut through, they should be quite accurate, and they should just neatly pop out to give you that nice precise line. These are very useful, by the way. I wouldn't throw these away. If I'm scratch building or need a 90-degree bracing for something, I have them ready made. Here are the 4 base layers completed with their window apertures cut out. They're nice and accurate, so they should make up well. Here I go a little out of sequence. I like to get all the base layers done, and I noticed there was a sheet that contains more base layers but made of medium card. So this sheet also has some wall, so rather than cut it, this is an A4 sheet, I'll mount this entire sheet onto a piece of 1mm card and cut them out in the same fashion as before. At last all the base layers are done. In fact, everything that needs mounting onto 2 or 1mm card is now finished. The other sheets, I have 4 left, just say on the bottom print only, so these are the skins that we will cut out and apply to each of these base layers. Switching now to the fine knife, the Swan Morton with the number 11 blade, you can finally cut out these thin pieces of paper quite easily. I've cut here one of the window walls. the outside brickwork of the window walls, and the buttresses and the plinths go there, but these areas have to be removed. So I'll do it in the same way as before, carefully aligning them with the ruler and cutting them through. When they're cut through, they will need to be glued to one of the base layers, and the way I glue that is to coat it with EvoStick PVA adhesive, rub it all in, okay, so it's getting it round the edges, making sure it comes up to the edges, and then positioning the printed area on it, and when it's done it'll look like that, except of course there'll be the little flaps of the bricks here, and you can probably see that they then become wrapped round. So when I'm happy that that's not going to move and is going to be fairly safe, although it's not 100% dry, I turn it over and apply some glue on this side, and then fold the flaps under and press them and hold them tight until they stick. Right, I'll show you now how I fit the windows. The end walls coverings here, the window walls rather, there are two that make up an individual wall. So if you remember, there were 4 of them, but they only make up 2 walls because one is the inside and one is the outside. So they will be eventually fixed together like that. So these two 2mm boards now make quite a strong and sturdy 4mm wall thickness. The windows go in between them, and that's what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to use this as the wall that I'm going to fix the windows to, and I'll put on my cotton glove, because there's 2 things you don't want when you're fitting windows. One is to have unsightly fingerprints on the window itself, and the other thing is you don't want glue to spoil the look. So the way I do them avoids both these problems. I'll cut them out with scissors. There's no need to be, they go in behind, they're fixed behind the wall, so there's no need to be too precise, and I like to leave a little bit of a margin to fix them in with. So I'll just take the scrap out of the way and just separate the 2 windows. The next thing to do is just check that you've got them the right way round. So that's the shiny side, so that will be on the inside, so that's correct. I'll just use a knife just to lift that up. Try not to get fingerprints on the main area. That's the matte side, so that's the gloss side. So they're both the right way around. Now, I don't glue them, I tape them. So I take a little bit of tape and I put that, you can do it with tweezers, but I just hold the window and don't get it on the actual transparent bit, but halfway into the black I put a little bit of tape and it makes like a hinge. So now I just press that so it's quite firm on there, and then taking this I position it behind there and hold it while I turn that over, and then holding it, supporting it with the glove, and then holding it again with the sellotape, I get the position where I want it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, and then with it in place I simply press it home on the board. Now you might think it'd be a good idea now to tape all that round, but In fact, it isn't, because it's very difficult not to trap it when you tape it round and create a bulge in it. It's much easier, because this is going over the top and we'll flatten it anyway, just to leave it as it is. Okay, because when that's on, it'll hold it perfectly flat. Now what I do is make sure any surplus tape doesn't cover too much of the card, because I'll need to apply some glue. So when I've done this, the last thing I do is just, with this tape firmly pressed onto the board, is just trim a bit of it off and remove it. Oh, it didn't come off, did it? So there we are, that's off, and all I need to do when I've done the other one is to apply some glue. I would apply it on this side so that there's no risk of getting the glue again on the glass. Apply it on here in the same way, making sure it comes up to the edges, being careful around the windows so that when you press it together it doesn't squeeze glue in. And then simply these can be squeezed together and held in place with a series of clips. When the glue is dry, these can be removed and the assembly is then finished, the inside wall, the outside wall and the two windows positioned. Everything is now finished and ready for assembling to create the structure. I'll start this by gluing the buttresses, the external buttresses, in position, and then the internal buttresses, when they're dry, will go on the inside. I've not added any inside detailing sheets to that, because I'm not going to put a light in it, because it is, after all, to hide the point motor. The walls are now super glue tacked together, and I've checked them for angles so that they are vertical and the corners are 90 degrees. So all remains to do is to put these together. Part one of this build is finished. The point motor can now be hidden with the water tower base. And the tank made from the Dapple kit will fit on top. In part two, I will show you how I'm going to improve the look of the Dapple tank. I'll also fit a light, a yard lamp, on the front of the tower base, and I'll finally weather it into the layout to finish it. Thanks again for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this this video, and I'll see you again in part two.